and I would really appreciate it if you would stop Rob Taylor from blathering on and on.
Opinions expressed by talk show hosts, callers, or guests on the Rob Taylor Report do not necessarily represent the opinions of the hosting platform, subsidiaries, sponsors, or possibly anyone else on the planet or the known universe. From the tinfoil and lead-lined broadcast bunker on the beautiful southern coast of Oregon, it's the Rob Taylor Report. So strap yourself in. Your weekly political therapy session is about to begin. Ladies and gentlemen, here he is, the nearly famous Rob Taylor.
Hello, America and beyond. I want to thank you all for joining us. I've got a few quick announcements before I get to my guest. We are playing Where's 3H Tree Service, so if you can find Matt Holman and his crew, 3H Tree Service, you can win $50. I think that's today's prize. I don't know where they're at. Go to their Facebook page. You know how they leave clues there. But right now we are in a full swing of Where's 3H Tree Service. And I've got to tell you right now, if you're looking to sign those petitions, we've got 4 petitions who are all at the Republican headquarters here in Coos County. Over there at North Bend at the Newmark Plaza. Sign the petitions, all 4 of them. That's at Newmark Plaza, 3229 Broadway in Suite F. F for the Fockers, that's right. And I've got a special guest joining me right now. He's a wonderful man, and he's going to give us the most enlightened news about what's going on in the legislature. Kevin, how you doing, man?
That was the best Donald Trump imitation I have heard in a long time.
You like that one?
I did.
I try. It
worked.
It's all right because I listen to him, and then I find myself talking more and more like him. That's the weird thing. Maybe I should stop watching his stump speeches. I don't know. Can you hear me? Kevin?
Well, I should just let you know that there was a bit of an audio glitch there. So much of what you said kind of came out sounding like a robot. I'm not sure if that'll continue, but if something sounds weird, just wanted to give you a heads up.
No, everything sounded great on our end. It was like you just stopped for a few minutes. And so I guess the audio must have been really screwed up on your side.
Yeah, it was just when you were speaking, it just kind of like slowed down. But you're good now.
Good, very good. The legislature, they are in session. They're not in session. I guess they're kind of there. They're not there. They don't know what they're doing. We have a bill that's going to impose the same things that Measure 114 is. Why don't you tell us all about it, because you've been keeping up with it nonstop.
Well, House Bill 4145 it repeals Measure 114 and just replaces it basically with the same language with some worse stuff. So one of the things they had in there initially was they've raised the fees even further. They've extended the time period that the police could impose before they would issue a permit that you can't get anyway. They gave complete immunity to the permit issuing bodies if they just didn't do their job. And interestingly, they also gave a carve out for both the magazine ban and the permit requirements for police and retired police, and which included, say, like parole officers. So weapons of war were okay if you were a retired parole officer. You're not allowed to have them, but retired parole officers can have killing machines and weapons of war. They've taken that out and just left the carve in now for active cops. And they implemented a date for the imposition of the magazine ban in 2028. 2027, which had a previous bill had it in 2028. Now they have it in 2027. And of course, all of this hinges on whether or not the court finds Measure 114 constitutional, and whether, if they find it unconstitutional, whether this bill will require a completely new lawsuit, or whether it will be understood that those provisions are unconstitutional, period, is not clear. And I had this conversation with the attorney who actually handled the state case, the one that's held things up. And he wasn't entirely sure either. So it could be that if this is implemented, and it was delayed again today because of some drama that happened on the House floor, but if it is implemented, it could be, and I can't say for certain, it could be that they'll just say, well, you sued over Measure 114. This isn't Measure 114, so that case is moot. And now you have to start a new lawsuit. So as you may or may not know, our federal lawsuit has been sitting in the Ninth Circuit literally now for years. And, one of the things about the courts, and why, I really prefer to have these fights in the legislature, because when you get in court, you're basically powerless. I mean, we had an experience with an Oregon judge who, after we were sued by an attorney we fired, literally told our attorneys, you are not allowed to have a defense. And our attorneys were saying, we've never heard of anything like this. Judges have complete dictatorial power, no matter how insane they are. And they have no real obligation to actually make any decision in any particular time frame. So there are a whole bunch of gun cases sitting in the Ninth Circuit that have been bouncing around for years. And their position is they don't want to do anything, because if Measure 114 goes into effect because the state courts find it constitutional, which I think is likely,
Right.
there's no reason for the Ninth Circuit to act, because they will have gotten everything they wanted, which is a massive gun ban. If they act, there's at least the potential, as small as it is, that if they were to agree and find it unconstitutional, that could then get referred to the Supreme Court. Now, the U.S. Supreme Court is largely meaningless at this point, because when they have a ruling, everyone ignores it and nothing happens.
Right.
But the problem with all of these things is that people's rights are at stake. People's property, their freedom are at stake. And while I understand that a court wants to take their time to come up with the right conclusion to things, it shouldn't be forever. And at this point, it really looks like it is going to be forever. And quite frankly, I have no expectation that I will be alive when the Ninth Circuit rules on our case.
And that's the sad part, because like you said, this is people's rights. These are people who could potentially be going to jail for long amounts of time, and then the court case mingle its way through and come to find out, oh no, they really were having their rights violated. This could potentially happen here. Have you known of anyone who's been arrested for these stuff?
Well, I mean, these measures are not in effect yet. So the problem is that the state's position, as soon as that passed in 2022,
Right.
was that although it was enjoined by the state court, I mean, the federal court just threw us out immediately. I mean, they throw us out, they ruled against us. But the state court enjoined it, and so it couldn't go into effect. But initially, Shemaya Fagan, who you remember, that criminal dope dealer money taker, she said, well, as far as I'm concerned, this was in effect the day it passed, which she declared it passed before the votes had been counted.
Right.
So her position was that when the courts found the bill constitutional, she could retroactively charge people for having purchased or sold a magazine going back years. This bill that was supposed to be heard today and was not moves that date to next year. So what happened is that the House Republicans walked off the floor today. And as a result of that, this bill, which has been delayed a couple of days already, was not heard. They're supposed to be back here at 3:10. They're supposed to be coming back at 3:45. But the House is in recess. I don't think the Republicans are coming back. I think the Democrats are coming back. They won't have a quorum, so they won't be able to do any business. Although I should point out that, as usual, Kevin Mannix, Republican, stuck around. Mm-hmm. He didn't walk off the floor. If he walked off the floor, he wouldn't be in a position to make speeches that everybody would be subjected to. And you know how he likes to talk.
So let me ask you this. How many, so if he isn't walking off the floor, does that still give them a quorum, or how many
No,
are they able to lose?
no, they didn't. They didn't have the quorum with just him there. So uh, I unless more of them come back, I don't see how they can do business. I mean, they were actually
Okay.
they were discussing a bill that there was the Republicans had left. They started discussing a bill. They hadn't come back. I don't know if the Democrats knew they weren't coming back, but I will tell you this. I think the Democrats knew there was a plan to walk off the floor. I think they thought they had foiled that plan. See there's been a big controversy because this particular gun bill was in a committee, and a Democrat House rep who is also a lieutenant colonel, female, successful ophthalmologist, she's Vietnamese, lieutenant colonel in the Oregon National Guard, had voted against the bill, at which point the chairman of the committee, Jason Krupp, stopped the proceedings, took her outside where he apparently mansplained her, and she came back in, and after some confusion, changed her vote so that the bill got out of committee. As a result of that, there's been a lot of screaming and yelling that Jason Krupp had basically harassed, intimidated, assaulted this woman verbally, which, nobody could see. None of that was on camera.
Right.
But she agreed that he'd created a hostile work environment. So the plan for today was that the Republicans were going to make a motion to see, this guy is also on the conduct committee. So
Right.
when complaints filed against him, he gets to hear the complaint, right? Now, I got to tell you, none of this is out of the ordinary. I mean, Tina Kotek used to do this all the time. I mean, Tina will never be, Jason Krupp, who was the chair of the committee who did this, will never be the man that Tina is. But
Right.
there's nothing out of the ordinary about Democrats being herded and told what to do. So, it was obvious what happened, but it didn't strike me as being at all unusual. But complaints were made, and the House Republicans decided that they were going to make a motion to demand that he be removed from the conduct committee, at which point they were going to walk out. Well, as with everything, there's a mole, right? And so the Democrats knew this was coming. So before the motion could be made, the Democrats announced a vote on that he resigned, and apparently the process requires that his resignation be accepted. So all of a sudden, the Republicans who were planning on demanding that he resign were told he's resigning, which kind of like mucked up the plans. But they walked off anyway. So I'm pretty sure that walk-off was intended to create more delays on the tax bill, 1599, which is their bill to change the date of the vote on the tax referendum, which passed in the Senate today for reasons that continue to escape me. Why the Republicans in the Senate were on the floor for that bill, I couldn't tell you. I mean, they kind of did their own version of a filibuster where they had numerous motions to delay it and refer it to different committees. And then they got up and just started talking. I mean, Mike McLean was talking about how we move it to March, and March is the springtime. It's when the flowers come out, and it's about renewal. And St. Patrick's Day is, and I was like, oh, please just shut up.
No kidding.
But that was the game, right? They all started talking and talking and talking, and then they made other motions. But eventually it passed, and one Democrat voted against it. But I don't know why they were there at all. I don't know what the strategy was, because had they not shown up, if that bill is not signed by the governor by Wednesday, it can't go into effect. So by simply not showing up there today or walking off for that bill, they could have delayed it at least another day, and again, given the House more time to delay things. So, I really do not understand what they're thinking. I always like to believe that they've got some plan that I just don't know about, and that's almost never true.
Yeah, it's almost like you think that maybe they're privy to certain information that we just don't know, and that's why they're acting so crazy, because otherwise you got to go, these people are just batshit crazy. I mean, they wouldn't have suffered any consequences from it. And then before this podcast started, you were telling me that they had till this Wednesday and for the governor to sign it, for it to pass. I was thinking they had till March 8th because that's when the last day is, but actually it's sooner according to you. So they even had less time.
The session ends on March 8th, according to the official legislative calendar. For some reason, Christine Drazen keeps saying it's March 9th. I don't know why. One of the motions that they made was to move it to March 8th, which of course would have made it meaningless. The session doesn't end until March 8th, but the bill had to be passed by Wednesday to meet all the deadlines that would be required to get everything into voters' guide. And I don't know if that included people making statements for and against, but that was the deadline that Secretary of State gave them. Said, you got to have this done by the 25th. At this point, it's still going to be a hell of a lift because assuming, okay, it passed today in the Senate. Now it has to have a first reading in the House, which of course could be tomorrow, unless House Republicans aren't there. And then it would have to be like, I'm sorry. Yeah. First, they could probably do the first and second reading in the same day, but they probably couldn't vote on it till Wednesday. And if the House Republicans walk out on Wednesday, then obviously that doesn't happen. But today they also changed all the deadlines. So, typically there are deadlines for how much notice the public has to get for hearings and anything else that's scheduled. And they've gone to short notice, which is, like nothing. You're going to have a hearing for something in an hour, which means, of course, that, the people as usual are cut out of the process.
Right. And what do you think they're going to do? You think the Republicans are going to have the backbone, or you think they're just going to crumble like normal?
My whole focus for like the last 2 years has been telling people that they've got to lean on the Republicans. The Republicans' position is that you should go bother the Democrats. And as far as I'm concerned, that's like, you're being held hostage and you want to talk some sense into the hostage takers while that hostage rescue team is sitting outside having coffee. It's the Republicans who have the power to fix this. And the people don't have the power to fix this for obvious reasons. I mean, if you looked at first of all, the original tax bill had heavy opposition, which you can see just by looking at how many people supported it and opposed it when they uploaded testimony. Then a ballot measure comes along that passes with an overwhelming majority in record time, which kind of said something. Now they have this bill to change the date of that vote. And the opposition to this bill it's like 4,000 and change to 60 or something. So clearly the people contacting their legislators is meaningless. And when the Republicans say, you've got to go talk to your legislator, you need to testify. Like, why? We've already done that. The people did it. They stood out in the rain and got the signatures. They got all that done. And the Democrats have just extended a big middle finger to them.
Yeah.
Now it's up to the people who we hire to do this job to step up and do it. The comments that were made on the Senate floor today about this is a great bill. This is going to allow the people to decide earlier. This is democracy. I mean, Casey Jama, who, as you know, barely speaks English, as he's Somalian. Know if he's checked out all that female genital mutilation that's going on in Minneapolis, but he can barely speak English. He comes from, this is not a racist statement. He comes from a camel herding family.
Right.
He's done nothing but grift off the system since he got to America, and he carried the bill. And frankly, I wanted a translator, to crawl on the bottom what he was saying. I couldn't understand a word he was saying, but he was saying, "Oh, this is democracy in action." No, the people were screwed, and the people spoke loudly and in great volume. And now it's the job of the legislators who have the ability and have the tools to do something about it. Now, clearly, if the Senate was on the floor for the bill today, I'd like to conjure up some idea that, man, they've got this great plan. But right. I remember years ago when that clown Bill Post was in the House and gun bills were passing and everybody was saying, you got to stop this. And he was like, trust us, we have a plan. Yeah, the plan was to bend over and get screwed by the Democrats and pass the bills.
Total surrender. Total surrender is our plan.
If there's a plan, God bless them, but it's going to be news to me, man. I hope there is. There's just no history of it.
No history of it. So I thought it was pretty genius of Ed Deal to put this bill up for repeal. and then of course run for governor. I thought that was pretty slick. Okay, that was pretty slick. But the thing is that we could have a chance here to win that position, more so if that bill, of course, is in November rather than in March or in May. And then you've got people like, what's his name, talking about how it's destroyed democracy when they're trying to destroy the vote. They're trying to totally suppress the vote on this. If we can keep this in the November election, what do you think? Do you think we actually have a chance, even with all the fix that's on our system? Do we have a chance?
Well, I think that a big part of this is going to be what happens in the primary. All right. So once again, you have the Republican vote that's split. You've got people who probably shouldn't be in the race.
Yeah.
People who are clearly just clowns, non-contenders. There's a whole bunch of them. Then you got David Medina, who is, pretty outspoken guy and everything, but it's a vanity run. He's not going to win. He doesn't have the background for it. He'll never have the money for it. He's probably the wrong person for it. Podcast, and people say, oh, he's got a big following podcast. Well, that's great. That doesn't translate into votes, and that's not going to happen. So really what it comes down to is the two Chris's and Ed Deal. Christine Drazen is a nightmare. I mean, she's a liberal Democrat. She has a proven history of voting against the people. And this isn't speculation. This is we had a whole website about her votes.
Yep.
Dudley has not, I haven't seen much of him, frankly, at this point. I don't really know where he stands. And I will tell you, of all, I called Daniel Bethel, I'm sorry, but she didn't have the horsepower for this. When she announced first, I thought that's great. And I was, quite prepared to make a substantial donation to her campaign. She didn't really want it, but she is not a factor anymore. Sorry, you're not. Drazen's got the lobby behind her. Ed Deal has a massive following of people who watched how he shepherded this measure through, which is not easy to do.
Right.
Obviously took a lot of skill. Dudley, Dudley ran 15 years ago. I just don't know where he stands on stuff. And I will tell you this, I looked at all of their websites, Medina's, Bethel's, Drazen's, Dudley's, and Ed Deal's. And of course, for my issue, which is Second Amendment, Ed was the only person who mentioned it on his website. Now, that could have been updated. Maybe there's something new, but Drazen and Dudley and Bethel said nothing on their website. And I could assure you that this is, and even so in Bethel's case, she has a great reputation as a conservative county commissioner, probably well-deserved, but she latched on to a campaign consultant whose job is to drag her over to the left and make her never take a stand on anything. And that's what they all do. They're all told the only way you can win in Oregon is to be a moderate, which obviously has not worked in the past. Now, does that mean a real conservative could win? I don't know. I mean, it's happened. Dennis Richardson won, but it's a tough climb. I understand that, but they're all told to completely moderate their positions. And so they don't have any positions. It's all like everything that Tina Kotek is doing is bad. Vote for me. Okay, so where are you going to be on sexual mutilation? Where are you going to be on taxpayer-funded abortions? Where are you going to be on gun rights? Where are you going to be on auditing all the millions of dollars we give to these left-wing nonprofits that go right down the toilet? And frankly, Ed's the only one who's been saying anything. And the rest of them have just been saying how bad Tina is. Well, here's the problem in Oregon is that obviously a lot of people who signed that ballot measure were not Republicans because Democrats don't want to pay for more gas either. But the reality is at this point is that in Oregon, the hatred of Donald Trump and the way that we consider abortion a sacrament is probably going to win out. And if you are a believer in hating Trump and paying people to come here to kill their children, you're going to get a lot of votes in Portland. And, typically the conservatives or the Republicans, let me back off on that. I don't know how many conservatives there are, but the establishment Republicans in Oregon have not been very good at ballot harvesting. getting out the vote. And there are exceptions in certain counties, but for the most part, this is not something they concentrate on. Whereas the Democrats will go and really go to an old age home, find a bunch of people who have Alzheimer's, fill out their ballots and bring them in. And of course, we have a completely crooked vote by mail system, which allows them to constantly manipulate stuff. So given that they're in control of all that, and given how much, I mean, look, Kate Brown was one of the most disliked governors in the country, and she got reelected. And Tina Kotek is the most disliked, but they hate Trump and love abortion more than they care about, these other issues like having an affordable life.
So even if we get in there, which you're not even coming close to thinking we're going to do that, even with the tax bill, if it's on November, if we can get that repeal on there, it doesn't even sound like you're thinking we're going to get in there.
Look, I think it's a really bad idea, a really dangerous idea to try to make predictions, because stuff happens in politics you could never imagine, right? I mean, it happens all the time. Like, where did that come from? I would really like to be wrong about this, but I just look at I look at the stats, and I look at how crazy the left is now. I look at the fact that they control the elections, and the fact is that they keep electing really, really radical, crazy people. People who have no skills. Look at the Portland City Council. That is like a collection of demented sophomores that just can't do anything right. They like have this, we're going to be good communists, we're going to take everybody's property away, and we're going to outlaw foie gras. It's like, fine. And then when their own people come in and disrupt their meetings, one of them says, well, we're going to all start carrying guns. It's like, no, you're not, because it's illegal in your building. Okay. So, but
you voted against that. You can't do it.
Right. I mean, they got elected, and look at when our last mayor, Ted, who's mercifully, I just forgot his last name, Wheeler. Okay. Was there ever, you could not imagine a more effeminate soy boy type guy. And then the new mayor comes along and makes this guy look like Arnold Schwarzenegger, and their whole focus is like, we've got to protect criminals. There are people who don't belong in this country, and they're raping people and killing people with their cars and running drugs. We got to protect those people, and we got to take your money to do it. We're going to take a whole bunch of money, which we keep finding out we had more money than we knew about, and we're going to give it to illegal aliens. Yeah. You can't afford your property taxes, but we're going to give it to illegal aliens. You've got people rioting outside your apartments. So for 8 or 9 months, you can't even live there because of the tear gas coming in. But by God, we're going to pay for protection for illegal aliens. You want to get an abortion and you live in Idaho, come on over to Oregon. We'll pay for a hotel room for you. Genital mutilation, that's our specialty. All this stuff costs money, right? Everybody's got to pay for this. And then you've got them writing these checks to these nonprofits. That does a week go by that Willamette Week, of all places, doesn't have a story about some nonprofit that got a couple of $1 million from the state, and now they can't find the money. The offices are closed. Somebody's been thrown out. There's zero accountability because the way the game is played is, and this is now we're seeing this with the unions, of course. The union thugs are complete control of Oregon politics. They put the boots on the ground to get the Democrats in office. They extort money from their members to donate. Then the legislators can return a much larger amount of money to the union thugs than they got, because it ain't their money, right? It's the taxpayers' money. And now you've got union thugs showing up at the legislature just like a week and a half ago. They said there was some bill that the unions didn't want. And they basically said, nice little office you got there. Hate to see something bad happen to it. This bill better not come up again. And of course, the Democrats just say, yes, sir, whatever you say, sir. It's just absolutely, completely out of control. And even Republicans, who's the teachers union, some of the biggest thugs around, right? No matter how much money they get, and it's always more than last time. Oh, it isn't enough. And the Republicans are afraid to do anything about it. Then you've got a Republican Party that's completely neutered, right? That doesn't do anything. And before that clown, Cyrus Javity, switched over to the party he should have always been in, the Democrat Party, I contacted the head of the Republican Party and said, what are you going to do about this guy? This guy is voting against you all the time. We don't care. We don't care how they vote. We don't care what their principles are as long as they say they're Republicans. And I thought, I didn't get that right. Well, the plan is that if we elect more Republicans, even if they're screaming Marxist, satanic leftists, we'll get the gavels, and then they'll all become conservative. And so help me God, that was her position, that they would become more conservative if they elected more squishes. At which point, rational people, Rob, throw up their hands. You know?
And that's where we're at today. And what you said about Javadi, I forget the guy who ran against him in the primary, much better conservative. And David Brock Smith was mad at that guy because he kept telling him he needs Javadi's vote on the squishy stuff they're voting on. He even admits it, that he needs.
Years ago, I was walking down the hall in the Capitol, and Brock Smith said, hey, Kevin, he said, could you lighten up on Sherry Helt, who was another screaming leftist who got elected as a Republican. And just like Javadi, she always voted to the left. And we were telling people about that. He goes, could you just lighten up on her? And I was like, why? He said, well, because she votes with us sometimes. I said, look, you fat dope. The Democrats vote with you all the time, too, when you do a bill they want to do. Meanwhile, Drazen, who was the head of the House at the time, came to me asking for money, and I said, I don't want money going to Sherry Helt. Don't worry, it won't happen. Who's the first person she wrote a check to? Sherry Helt. Sherry Helt, mandatory vaxxer, anti-gun, pro-abort Republican. And then when she ran for Boley commissioner, her website said, Donald Trump is unfit for service. And I'm in a meeting with this bimbo, right? It wasn't a very big meeting. And I said to her, you're a mandatory vaxxer, you're a pro-abort, you're anti-gun, and your website says Donald Trump's unfit to serve. How does that make you a Republican? She says, my website doesn't say that. And a gal who worked for me at the time is sitting there, pulls her website up on her phone. It's like, here it is. And she kept denying it. The whole room was looking at it because it doesn't say that. It's like, yep, we can read, but she was the Republican candidate. And this is what we keep getting is candidates who are like, well, you know, we got to have Republicans. Well, but they're not Republicans, you know, they are Republicans. That's the problem is that there's no standard for being a Republican. It's just a title. It's like the jersey you're wearing.
You know, and it's funny that you say that. One of the big fights that we're having here locally, we're having a battle with the local Republicans, and they're talking about squishy. They think that we should be vetting the PCPs, but yet we should not be vetting the candidates. Now, I'm the opposite. I think if someone's willing to register a Republican, come to a meeting and actually do some work, you should probably pull him in and not be asking him too many questions as long as he's doing the right thing. But a candidate, I think we should be definitely asking him questions. And that's how we're getting these shitty candidates, Kevin. I don't know if you've seen the two people who are running in the Republican primary against Boomer Wright. Now, I haven't met Claire Lynn, who's one of those Republicans, but the other guy, Troy Cribbins, you've got to watch the interview from last week. I mean, I couldn't have done more of a softball pitch for an interview in all my life, and this guy couldn't nail anything. I mean, we could have been inside and he wouldn't have nailed anything.
Well, I don't know how you go about vetting PCPs, especially since many of those positions are elected positions. And I was a PCP. I only needed 3 votes in my precinct to win. Right. And one of those votes was mine. Of course, those were in the days when Ron Paul, when the party was completely controlled by the mafia, which is disgraceful behavior. But I think that if there's a way to vet PCPs, it's not a bad idea because that is a level of job that's pretty easy to infiltrate, and PCPs, their value is underrated. You know, PCPs can be an important position if they're not completely shut out by who's ever in charge, which they did when I was a PCP.
Yep.
But I don't know if there's a process for doing that. But I do know, I mean, in Southern Oregon, you got people who are convincing Democrats to register as Republicans and then become PCPs, and I've seen that in other states as well, where big moneyed interests will go and buy people into the PCP office so they can start controlling things. And of course, in Oregon, one of the things that PCPs can do is determine who is going to replace someone who resigns or who dies. And that's an important job, and frankly, that's when Drazen resigned from her position to run for governor first time, it was the PCPs who decided who were going to be the candidates. They didn't get to pick the final, the person who won, because that was rigged. But they got to axe certain people. So in Clackamas County, most of the people in Clackamas County, where Drazen is from, who know her, despise her. And so when she left and she had somebody that she was trying to shoehorn into that position, they wouldn't even consider her. Now, there were some bizarre shenanigans that went on when the three candidates, one of whom, and I think James Heap, who actually won that seat. Yeah. There were three people running who were contenders who were picked by the PCPs. One of them was a guy who I knew nothing about. I know he was handicapped. I think he was a veteran. I know he was in a wheelchair. And then there was James, and then there was a guy named Paul Carlson. And Paul is a Canby area businessman who's extremely successful, very conservative, very knowledgeable, very involved in his community. A dear friend of mine, I should point that out. And I advised him against it because I didn't want him in that cesspool, right? But yeah. Tootie Smith, who was the county chair, the Clackamas County Commission chair at the time, told an attorney who shared it with me that she was going to make sure that Carlson would never get the position because Carlson's daughter was dating my son. That's how twisted this stuff is. So they got James Heap, who they thought, James is like such a terrible candidate. He'll serve out the 2 weeks that he has left. He'll never win an election. Then we can edge in our girl, their Drazen clone. And then James Heap, as you will recall, got drunk at the county fair and got arrested. And they were like, you're done, man. You're toast. And the whole caucus, who always screwed him in the first place, told him, you got to quit. You got to go get help. Well, he won for re-election. He won re-election, right? Which was great because James, not a polished candidate, but a true conservative, made a bunch of mistakes because he got no help, but his heart was in the right place.
Right.
And then after he wins that and Drazen wants to come back, after telling the Clackamas County chair that she had no plans to run for office, within a week, she had signed up to run for office again. And then her whole campaign was, we've got to take our seat back from James, a conservative Republican. And of course, the voters not paying attention. That seat must be a Democrat now. We got to get a Republican back there. And then so James lost his seat, and that disgraceful, completely self-absorbed, egomaniacal witch Drazen got the seat, which she had no plans to keep, and then knew that Bonham was leaving, edged into that seat, which she said, I'm running for governor. Everybody, even Bethel at the time was telling me, she's not going to run for governor. She wants Bonham's seat. I was like, no, babe, she's running for governor. Let me tell you. She gets the seat, which she had no plans to keep and couldn't keep no matter what, which means that seat will be vacant. There'll be no Republican incumbent. Not that she's really a Republican. And so she managed to mess up the Senate, the House, and the governor's race all in one swoop. It was brilliant. But people don't know. I to this day, I tell people I've had conversations with people online and stuff about her history, and I can't believe it. I can't believe that's true. It's like, it's true. Here are the receipts. Here's the bill she voted on. And yet the Republican Party has this illusion that the only thing that matters is how many numbers you have on the board, and they don't care how they vote.
Right. I don't know where they get these people from. It's just amazing. We're doing this governor's debate, and I've got Bethel, I got Medina, and I got Ed Deal. The three candidates that I actually like, I'll be honest with you. Now the rest I'm not too thrilled with, but at least I've got the three that I like. And so they're coming down here for a debate in a couple of weeks, and I got Taryn Feist, who is going to be moderating them. But the thing is that One of our people, they wanted us to bring in Paul Romero for the debate, and we're like, he says the right things, but I don't think you guys know Paul Romero because they're new to the area. And it's like, we love you, but no, we just can't have Paul on there. But why do we have these perennial candidates? Joe Ray Perkins is another one.
Well, here's the thing. Here's what my disappointment about Joe Ray. Okay. She was running for Congress, right?
Right.
And now she's switched and she's running for U.S. Senate.
Yeah.
And I remember one time having a conversation with her and saying, Joe Ray, have you ever considered like a local office and build up Oh no, that's way beneath me. I'm going to be a U.S. Senator. So here's my disappointment with when she switched from the House race to the Senate race. Had she been in the House race, she would have been running against Jonathan Lockwood, all right, in the primary. Now, Jonathan Lockwood is the perfect conservative Republican candidate. He's gay. He's anti-Trump. He worked for the Biden administration. He worked to elect Biden, right?
Yeah.
He's a bomb thrower. He's become infinitely more effeminate since he was in Oregon, moved to Colorado, and practically, he looks like a total girl now. But most importantly, his whole shtick has always been to defeat Trump. And for some reason, and I thought him against Joe Ray would have been really a lot of fun to watch. It's like this gal, Darcy Lapierre. You know who she is? She's running for House seat. Okay.
Sounds familiar, yeah.
Okay, so this is the gal who's been married 6 times to just millionaires and has the 7-bedroom mansion in Newburgh. And then she filed for bankruptcy, and the marshals came and they found jewelry hidden in a fake closet. And of course, who's pushing that race? Who is pushing that? What political consultant is behind that race? Do you want to guess? Do you want to guess what Republican political consultant is running her campaign? Oh, Brian Iverson, of course.
Oh, no way. Oh, no way. He can't even be that stupid.
No, look, he will make a fortune off this chick. I'm telling you, she's kind of high maintenance looking, was a cowgirl. She had a reality TV show about barrel racers, but she's been married to Claude Van Damme was one of her husbands. She's been married to this. Yeah, she's been married to a stream of millionaires. One of them she was married to twice. No political history, no background, nothing like that. So this is going to be a great race, and this is why I'm sorry, but I just cannot take Oregon Republicans seriously anymore.
No, you really can't. And Iverson, I just received an email from him 2 days ago attacking Mark Meeks. I was wondering why he was going after Mark Meeks.
Who was attacking Meeks?
Iverson was.
Oh, well, Meeks is the only Democrat who voted against the tax bill.
I know. I don't know what. Yeah. Who knows?
Hey, look, I'm not going to be happy until Mark Callahan's back in a race.
There you go. Him and who's the swinger guy?
God, somebody asked me the other. I couldn't remember his name. Who was the mayor of Sandy? Ran for governor. I can't believe
He'll come to us afterwards.
I keep forgetting his name. But yeah, okay, so you want to swing. You're running as a conservative. You want to swing. And let me tell you, I've met his wife. I'm pretty sure his wife got the better end of that deal. But don't do it on Facebook if you're going to run for office. It's just.
No, not as a conservative, not especially in an area like, if you did that here in Coos County, you couldn't run like Lockwood. Lockwood couldn't run here. Or is it Lockhart? It's Lockwood, right? John Lockwood. Yeah, you couldn't run in Coos County, I don't think, as openly gay as he is. We do have a bisexual county commissioner, but it was amazing when he ran for county commissioner, he lost the bisexual title that he used on a regular basis when he was running for the Coos Bay City Council. All of a sudden, that DEI dried up. And just recently, him and the Republican county commissioner, we have 2 Republicans, one of the county commissioners voted to give Oregon Health Authority money that comes from the county, that's federal money from Oregon, the Affordable Health Care Act. They voted to give $200 to a all-ages drag show here for mocktails to cut down on underage drinking. Okay. how does mocktails cut down on underage drinking? Number one, and two, what is the hell's the matter with Republicans these days?
Well, I mean, look, the whole drag thing is like it's the forward guard of the sickest thing that humanity has ever faced, which is the trans movement. Like dangerously, let's face it, these people are seriously mentally ill. As we keep learning, they tell us, if you don't let your kid transition, he'll kill himself. Well, if you do let him transition, he turns into a mass murderer, which is quite a bit more dangerous. And so to not recognize that these people absolutely need some intervention, but to promote it, it's like, I'm going to let grown men with fat bellies and beards dress up as women and get near my children. No, I think that would have to be solved in a way that would be, I will probably not say on the record.
Right. But that's, and you said that too when you were at Canby, that we're actually having the conversation. Should we allow fat bearded men who dress like women with our kids, when we shouldn't even be having the conversation, guys? This should be just a no. We shouldn't even be talking about this. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. I mean, think about if 10 years ago, if we said there are men, big males wrestling your daughter or going into their locker room, and we are going to pay to remove the healthy testicles of a young boy or to perform a mastectomy on your 13-year-old daughter because they have some mental health issue that could be addressed, which is probably illegal now, but almost certainly would outgrow, and say, no, why are we doing this? Because there's so much money involved. You take somebody and mutilate them, you got a patient for life, or at least until they kill themselves, because there's no indication that they kill themselves any less often after they've been butchered than they do when they're just having some mental issue that could be solved with intervention or time.
Right. And the more we go along, did you see that last shooting? I mean, it's like the last 3 or 4 shootings were all these crazy trans people. And yet we're supposed to act like, oh no, we didn't see that. No, they weren't dressed like that. But that last shooter, I mean, that dude was batshit crazy, man. You could look at that guy and I didn't even need to hear him, and you could see he was crazy.
So you had that. Then you had that shooting up in Canada where the Canadian press keeps referring to this shooter as a gun person, or referring to this person as her. I'm sorry, but if you neuter yourself, you do not become a woman, you become a eunuch. And people have been so intimidated, and so they've been intimidated into silence, saying, well, we don't want to offend anybody. Well, you may not want to offend anybody, but children are being gunned down in schools and churches. Maybe you should start offending people. Maybe you should start recognizing that an adult male, with big biceps and tattoos, who starts wearing women's clothing and insisting that he's a woman, has some serious problems that could translate into violence, as we now know is getting to be a pretty damn regular thing.
Yeah. I'd be willing, and there were studies on this. I forget the 2 guys who were in the Columbine shooting, and they too had some questionable sexual tendencies themselves, which leads you to believe that maybe, the shooting isn't about the gun, folks. Maybe it's about the crazy person with the gun. Maybe, and this is going to be, when people say this, they're going to call me transphobic, but maybe we shouldn't give trans people guns without first giving them some type of psychological test. I don't know. That sounds crazy. It would go against my belief in the Second Amendment, but isn't that what the left is arguing?
Well, I mean, first of all, I am absolutely transphobic. I definitely fear these people. They are dangerous. They are violent. Second of all, I'm a Second Amendment advocate. I've never advocated dangerous, violent, mentally ill people having guns. It's not a conflict for me at all. I was in a gun store about a year and a half ago, and I was talking to, that was before they switched the federal form that you could actually put that you were an X for your gender.
Mhm.
And I was commenting on how bizarre that was. And he said that if somebody marks down X for their gender, he won't sell them a gun because they're clearly mentally ill and he wants nothing to do with it. But you can't, I mean, a guy who wants to wear women's clothing, there's something wrong with that dude, but he's probably not going to go out and murder a bunch of children. But a guy who absolutely believes that he's a woman is, there's something wrong with that person. It's like a person who's absolutely convinced that they're a cat. You know, there's something wrong with you. You are not a woman. You will never be a woman. You might be a eunuch. You might be mutilated. You might be incontinent and sexless for the rest of your really horrible little life, but you're not a woman. And if people keep humoring this, that we are forced to reinforce your delusions, I'm sorry, that's the end of society.
Yes, that is. And on top of that, identifying through your sexuality instead of who you actually are is just going to destroy this country as well. We can't be saying identity politics. I think there are a lot of lesbians and gay people who are ticked off at the LGBTQ movement that they were dragged into the perversion that's really going on at the end of that alphabet there. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Well, I don't think there's any question that there's people who say, well, I'm a man who's sexually attracted to men. That does not make me a woman, or a woman who's sexually attracted to women. That does not make her a man. And that's a long throw from being convinced that you're somebody of the opposite sex because you will yourself to be. And it's crazy. I mean, you look at the people in the Biden administration. We had that bald-headed, goofy guy who was stealing women's underwear. Okay, so he dresses in women's clothing, but he's also a kleptomaniac, stealing women's clothing. He's a government official with a shaved head and eyeliner. That's a freak, man. And the Surgeon General is a freak. The person is a freak, and they were promoted because Biden got the word. You know, he got assistance from the far left with the understanding that he was going to do their. I mean, Joe Biden, you know, old fool who wanted to lock up every black guy forever because they did crack and call them all savages and everything. He's not embracing the transgender movement. He was doing the bidding of his overlords. And I'm sorry, you know, if you're a guy who's attracted to guys, that's your deal, man. But if you're a guy who says, I just chopped off my testicles and now I'm a woman, you're screwed up.
You're mentally ill. And what you just said about Biden catering to the crazy left, the extreme left, that's exactly what the Republican commissioner here in our little county, Coos, that's exactly what they did. And the reason he did it was he was trying to bow at the altar of wokeness, because that's what appears right now to be growing in our county. I mean, the Republicans, because our senators have just gone to crap, our Republican Party, the local party, has gone to shit. So there's disarray there. And so the county itself is moving more and more to the left, just like the state. And so that's why we're focusing on this stuff, Kevin. That's why, you know, we just did this huge Turning Point event. We had over 700 people. We filled an entire theater with people who are just really interested in getting involved. We've got this governor's debate coming up. We probably will get 500 or 600 people for that. The event that I just had up on the screen for the candidates, that's going to be another big thing on Wednesday. So my question for you is, what we just discussed on the state level, we just really can't fix much. You know what I mean? Because it doesn't sound like there's any way in hell we're going to win any state offices. It doesn't sound like we're going to change the mind of any of the legislatures. So is that the right thing to do, just to focus on the local government and put most of your energy into local elections, local districts, and those types of things, rather than trying to focus on things that I think in this conversation we've pretty much determined is nothing you can do about it? It's like the serenity prayer that we need to focus on, I guess.
Well, everybody's resources are limited, right?
Yeah.
And I do believe that a lot of these really messed up stuff starts at a real local level. And the fact is that most people don't get engaged, right? Most people don't get involved. And that's why, I mean, I'm still getting emails from people asking me what Measure 114 is. And not a day goes by that someone doesn't ask me, well, what's going on with that? I mean, it's something that's anybody who's paying attention knows what's going on with it, but people aren't paying attention. And so to try to have a profound impact on a higher level of government becomes increasingly difficult. If you're having a governor's debate, you're having an effect on a statewide election, you know? So that's great. You've got the means to do it. You have the background, you have the will, maybe you've got some people helping you out. For a person who has none of that, yeah, they should go and ask what the hell their city council's doing. And maybe they'll get lucky. And maybe their city council's not doing anything really stupid, but maybe they are. And if the city council's doing something stupid, and if the county commissioner's doing something stupid, those are places that really people can have an impact. And if you have the means and the reach to affect a statewide or a national election, do it. You know, if you haven't reached that point, but you care, go to your city council, and you'd be surprised what kind of stupid crap they're pulling. You know, you really will.
Yeah, you totally will. And it was funny. You were talking about people, how they run for office, and some people, they'll only run for certain offices because anything lower than governor is just not prestigious enough. And I had a young man call me the other day and said, I want to meet with you. I want to run for office. And he came over to the headquarters, and he was sitting there, and I thought for sure he was going to hit me with, well, I want to run for governor, because they always, you know, they always want to go for that glory shot, you know? And he was so cool because he goes, I want to run for city council here in Coos Bay. And I was like, thank God. Thank you.
That's great.
Thank you.
That's great.
Yeah.
You know, and the thing is that it's all of those all those bodies have, you know, whatever's going on there takes a while to figure out who's who and what's going on. You go sit through a couple of city council meetings, and granted, in many cases, they can be hideously boring because, I mean, you watch a floor session of the House or Senate, and first, so the House today, it's run by Democrats, so it was an hour late. And then there's an hour of courtesies, an hour of remonstrances, and you just want to hang yourself. But it's those meetings where you start hearing like what's going on. And it takes a while. It takes a while to kind of hang out and see what's going on. But a person who wants to run for city council, that is perfect, because not only is it a winnable race, but it's a place where you actually could have an effect. You know, if you won a House seat in Oregon as a Republican, you can't do anything. You know, well, you could. You know, you could if you were willing to disrupt things, but you can't vote your way into a win or a loss at all. But if somebody in a city council actually can, and people who stand up at city council meetings or stand up at county commissioners meetings and start talking back to the state can have a profound effect. It's a lot to ask of people. It really is. I mean, you know, you give up a lot of time. You typically don't get paid. You run the risk of people hating you for the decisions you make, but somebody's showing up there and making decisions. And you can, if you want to be an activist, you don't have to become a council member. You could bird dog these people and report back what's going on. But yeah, I mean, people absolutely can have an effect, but it's getting harder and harder to try and come up with an optimistic message for them. You know, when you look at like, okay, why the hell was the Senate there today? And maybe they have an answer, but they haven't given it to me.
Yep. And that's it. When they're running for, especially here for the House of Representatives, I tell them all you're really going to do is just hold your ground. That's all you're doing. There's really not much you can do to move forward. You're just holding your ground.
Well,
and that's not an optimistic message.
It's important for people to have an idea of what's actually going on there. And I will tell you, I think I've alienated almost all the Republicans. But in the past election, as for many years, you know, I heard from a lot of candidates who wanted support from off, or who, you know, wanted either donations or endorsements or something. And almost without exception, they had no idea what they were getting into. And I know even Ed Deal, who has really done a masterful job on this referendum, when he ran the first time, I spent a long time on the phone with him, and I was like, Ed, you got to understand that these people are sharks. The Republican caucus is not going to stand up for you. Look what they did to Mike Neerman. Look what they did to James Heeb. And he was like, yeah, he just didn't believe it. And most of them don't. I mean, I had a guy call me last election who was running against Diane Lithicum, who we'd already endorsed. And he was like, well, I want to talk to you anyway. And he was like proudly, he was a former cop, he's proudly telling me, I'll never walk out. You know, if I got a 911 call, I had to show up. It's like, I'm going to go do my job. I was like, hey, your job is to walk out, okay? You use the tools you have. Or you take like an Emily McIntyre, you know, I'll never walk out because I don't want to risk my good relationship with the Democrats. This is somebody with battered wife syndrome, you know? And so the first thing they've got to do is get a clue about what's going on in that building.
Is Patty Hearst home? Hello. Yeah. Total. This is kind of sad. To totally change the subject here. This guy Stocks Family Farm, he just made a comment. He's one of the guys who goes down and films the protests on the boardwalk, the No Keens protest. But he says, send prayers. The principal lead administrator of Riverview School is currently stuck in Puerto Vallarta with his wife during the cartel war, and he can't get out. Now, that's the Christian school here. That's crazy, isn't it?
Well, I have no idea why he's there. If he's there on a mission, if he's there on vacation. Yeah. I will tell you this. I mean, I've got a friend who for years has been my IT guy, has repaired all our computers here at off for 20 something years, goes to Mexico all the time. And I have these conversations with him like, dude, do you understand that's kind of a volatile place? Oh, not where we go, man. We go to Puerto Vallarta. It's safe. Like, no, man, it's Mexico. It ain't safe, dude. You know? So, you know, if you're there on a mission, God bless you. You know, you have my prayers. But it's just like, why don't you just go to North Korea? You know, it saves some trouble. It just.
1984, Juarez was okay to go to. Now, I wouldn't even go anywhere near the place. It's crazy.
You don't even want to be. You don't want to be on the American side of the border.
Mm-mm. No,
you know, I'm just looking. It's now 4:00, 15 minutes past the time the House was supposed to come back into session. There's nobody there, so I'm thinking that maybe the walkout just actually happened.
Yep. I've been sitting here waiting for it to happen. I was going to throw it on if we were talking, and it just hasn't happened. But I want to thank you for coming on. You answered a lot of questions that a lot of people have had. And you're just one of those people that people love to hear because, well, you're trustworthy. You've got
and so uplifting, right? I'm always like a ray of sunshine.
Mm-hmm. A ray of sunshine. Patty Hearst is Patty Hearst in the building. That's what I feel like. I feel like I'm a hostage. I'm a hostage in Oregon, and I got to send letters out to my Texas relatives every now and then. Really, we're doing fine. It's okay. But I want to thank you for showing up. Is there anything you would want to say before you get out of here?
Yeah, I mean, I typically don't come with a lot of good news, but people need to understand that you don't have to get a guarantee of victory. You know, we don't have to beat them. We just have to fight them. That's just what we got to do. And, you know, maybe things will turn around. You know, obviously we love what Ed Deal has done. I think it's an uphill climb, but what the hell choice have you got? So thanks for having me, and thanks for everyone who was listening, and, you know, hang in there, man.
Hang in there, man. Thanks, Kevin. You take care, okay?
All right. We'll see you later.
All right. Take care. And that was Kevin Starrett. And I want to thank all of you for joining me. Carol Yardley says, good, really good interview. Thank you, Carol. Thank you. And anyone who wants to get signatures right now, if you want to get signatures for the 4 petitions that we have circulating, they're over at the Republican headquarters, 3229 Broadway. That's in Newmark Plaza, right under the Century 21. Carol and Elmer are there right now. Let's see. I want to go quickly to my sponsors before I get to anything else. 3H Tree Service. If you got some of those problems with your trees, they're causing a liability because they're hanging over your eaves. Maybe they're hanging over your neighbor's eaves. You got to get those trees out. 3H Tree Service can come in and remove them with surgical precision, leave your yard looking absolutely beautiful, and you'll have a brand new view to check out. It's a wonderful thing. 3H Tree Service, 541-294-1800. Once again, that's 541-294-1800. And of course, Tom and Gigs, another sponsor for the good old Rob Taylor Report and the Friday Night Rant. But Tom and Gigs, great place to go if you want to get changes on your struts, on your shocks. You want to check your alignment. Maybe you want to find out if your car is travel worthy. Could be worth going and finding out because it's getting cold out there. You want to find out, is your car travel worthy? You can find out more at 541-888-4660. And they are located behind the car wash in the Empire neighborhood. If you know where the Empire neighborhood is, you know where the car wash is. That's 135 South Shoneman Street in Coos Bay, Oregon. And they're not just a car shop. They got more stuff. They can get lift kits and performance accessories. They got cool drones, the Alias there. They've got really cool RC cars. Tom and Gigs for all your RC needs. Hero copters, very cool stuff there. They've got planes, they've got cars. Look at that. Those RC cars are really cool. And they got Tannerite. But you have to be 18 years or older to purchase Tannerite. And of course, Herbal Choices, the Herbal Choices of my choice. No, they're not giving any money to any of our politicians. No Lamota action going on here. This is Herbal Choices, a much better choice. Herbal Choices, my choice for cannabis. And if you want to find out more, the herbalchoices.com website can tell you all about their sales and their deals that are all going on at the Herbal Choices store. And remember, they have 5 locations, one in Charleston, one in Coos Bay, one in Bandon, one in Reedsport, and one in North Bend. You have to be 21 years or older just to get into the store. And remember, don't operate heavy equipment, don't drive, and don't give the stuff to children. You must be 21 years or older to consume marijuana products. This is a drug. Take it seriously. And of course, abstinence. We are recommending abstinence for anyone out there who is tired of your bad habits. You know, you want to find virtue? Well, you have to get rid of vice. That's right. If you want to find virtue, the road to virtuism is virtuism a word? I'm not even sure if that's a word. If it's not, then I'm going to coin that word right now. But if you want to find virtue, you have to get rid of the vice. How do you get rid of the vice? You abstain from all those bad habits that you've picked up over the years. And I've picked up quite a few bad habits myself. Believe me, I'm not leaving myself out of this whole thing. We all have bad habits that we need to abstain from. So I always like to remind people, it's not too late. It's really not too late. In fact, I was just talking to, I wasn't even talking to him. It was a text that he was writing about how he gave up shooting up meth over 20 years ago. He's been 20 years sober, and that he just quit. That when he quit, he just quit cold turkey. And that's what I tell people, you know, that's probably the easiest way to do it, just to stop, just abstain from whatever bad, disgusting habit you have and move on. That's the way to do it. And he did it himself, and he was talking about that. And I want to give him a big congratulations out there. Good for you for doing that. And of course, we just heard from Kevin Starrett from Oregon Firearms Federation. As you heard, they're still fighting a lot of these really bad gun measures in the courts. If you would like to donate, please give to Kevin Starrett at the Oregon Firearms .org website. You can go there. They have a nonprofit as well. You can give to their nonprofit. You can give to the Political Action Committee. Find out more at OregonFirearms.org. Once again, that's OregonFirearms.org. And of course, the Bandon Gun Club, they're not a sponsor, but I like to promote the heck out of them. BandonGunClub.org. And Taiga Sports Park Association. They're the ones in charge of Taiga Sports Park. If you want to sight into your telescope, they have a 100-yard range out there, a shooting range out there, and they were busy. I heard this weekend you couldn't even get into the place. They were so busy. So If you want to help these guys out and you want to teach younger people or other people how to use their firearms properly, you may want to volunteer for the Taiga Sports Park. They're always looking for volunteers. I encourage you to go out there and check it out. I had a couple of my buddies call me up and said, wow, we can't even get into Taiga Sports Park. Do you know another place we can go shooting? And of course I did. And I told them where they could go to do a little bit of shooting. Yeah, they were very quite happy, and they took care of that. But if you need to take care of your shooting needs, you need to go, like I said, sight in that telescope. Make sure that rifle is working properly. Taiga Sports Park, that's the place to go. And of course, Coos County Neighborhood Watch. What one hell of a group. Go to Facebook. If you live in Coos County, you got to go to Facebook. You want to find out what's happening as far as the crime in our neighborhoods and other people's neighborhoods, go to Coos County Neighborhood Watch. And I can guarantee you there's a story in there right now that's close to where you live. And I don't even know where you live. And that's how close it is to you. That's scary. You should be worried about that. And of course, the Coos County Citizen Council, that's Chris Castleman's group. They have a podcast every Wednesday. Tune in, check it out. This past Wednesday was a really good podcast. I highly recommend you go check it out. Very good stuff. And tonight we have a what is it? We have a meeting with Dr. Frank. I'm gonna try to get out of here and get to that meeting real quick with Dr. Frank. Let's see if I can find it. I'm going through my files here. I can't see it. Nope, I can't see it. Of course not. So I'm not going to worry about it, but there is this event happening here. Meet the Candidates, Coos County Republicans, Wednesday, February 25th at the North Bend Library. John Sweet is going to be there. Come and find out why John gave money to the All Ages Drag Show. Find out why he did that. I'd like to know. Troy Cribbins is going to be there. Brandy Martindale, Richard Coleman, and Claire Lynn. We're going to have Claire Lynn on the show maybe next week. We're going to do an interview with her this week, and I'll be playing it for next week's show. So join me then. It should be a good time. But before I get out of here, I gotta see if I can find what I was looking for. And nope, I can't. So let's see if I can find. Oh, share screen. Let's see. No, that's not working. Boy, I had this. I should be a little more prepared. I'm sorry, folks. I'm trying to get this more prepared. All right, let me escape that. Let me get back over here and share this screen. Perfect. Let me see if I can share that and see if it's sharing on there. Okay, tonight, Dr. Frank is going to be here at 6 o'clock in the Coos Bay Library. Tonight, this is tonight in the Myrtle Room. I'm going to try to live stream this. We're going to see how this works. I don't know how well it's. I just kind of got pulled into this, and so we're gonna see how well I get this going here. But we'll check it out. I hope you all show up. This should be a really, really good time at the Dr. Douglas Frank talking about following the data. He's all about following the data. Yeah. And I want to thank all of you for joining me. I want to thank Kevin Starrett for being on the show. What a wonderful, wonderful thing that was. All the great stuff he talks to us about. Let's see, I got a comment. He says, I wish I could get there, but my car don't have headlights. Oh my. We got to fix that. I can't go around with no headlights on your car. That's not a good thing. Not a good thing at all. Very bad things could happen to you. So tune in next week. Like I said, I think we're gonna have a couple of candidates on, and we're gonna have a few more interviews. That's next Monday and Friday. You got to check out the Friday night rant. The Friday night rant's gonna be a wonderful thing. I tell you, it's going to be a wonderful thing. And so you check it out. The Friday night rant this Friday I'm going to try to get a few of those, what do they call them? Influencers, those podcasters from up north, some of those guys that came down here to film the all ages pedo prom. Yes, the all ages pedo prom here in Coos County. Yep, the one that John Sweet gave money to. Yep, that's the one we want to find out. And those podcasters came all the way down here to see why our tax dollars is going for the perversion. We'll find out. We'll find out more. He says, I should be there, brother. And all right, Steve Emerson is going to be here Wednesday. So that Meet the Candidates is on Wednesday tonight. Meet Dr. Frank. I'll see you, Steve, and I'm going to have a little present for you, Steve. Yep. I think you're going to like the little present I'm going to have for you. It's going to be really cool. So I can't wait to see you. And until then, you know what I always say, carry on, Coos County. Carry on.